meets a Quake.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our panel discussion. Today, in front of us here, we have got a panel of experts that are going to help us unpack one of the most critical subject that is very close to our hearts. And today, since morning, you guys have been dissecting these issues, and I think now it's time that we look at this particular one and try to dissect it and see how we can all benefit one or two things from it. In front here, my name is Mally. I will be the moderator moderating this discussion. And with me here, I've got very exciting and very energetic young people here. They forgot to mention their, I'm not going to mention their ages, but you can see they're all youth. Here I've got, next to me here, I've got Julius Natangwe from AR Movement. Hands for Julius, hands for Julius. He is going to talk to us about youth emancipation from his point of view, from his angle, from a political perspective. We have, in the middle there, we have Loise Katanga. Loise Katanga, hands for Loise. Loise is one of the organizers here, I believe. She's head of program Startup Namibia. And over there we have got Zodidi. She was telling me that I can't pronounce her name. Hands for Zodidi, please, everyone. Now, the topic of the day is youth is economic emancipation for the youth, right? You all agree? Now, this word is fully loaded, and I cannot even begin to unpack it. That's why I've got my colleagues here to help me. But let me say one thing before I get to them to say that from where I am sitting, you can see I'm sitting, from where I'm sitting, emancipation, the word itself, without going into economics, the word emancipation denotes a situation where someone is bounded and they need to be freed. Do you agree? Now, if we bring in economics, when we talk of economic emancipation, we're talking about economic freedom. What is that freedom? What is it that we need to be emancipated from? Are we in economic slavery? Well, let me not say a lot because I am just as curious as you to know and learn from my colleagues over here. So let me start with you, Ms. Julius. The word economic emancipation for the youth, how does that sound from where you're sitting?
Thank you very much. Let me rather say from where I come from.
From where you're coming from.
Thank you very much. Yeah, from where I'm coming from, we cannot speak about economic emancipation without speaking about the issue of land, to be honest. That's why you see historically when white people or when colonizers came here to Africa, the first thing they took was land. It was never women, it was never any other thing but land because they knew the value of that. With land, you are able to do anything and everything on this planet. At the moment, of course, like you spoke about economic slavery, we are slaves in terms of economy. We are dependent. We are sort of a grandchild of, you know, the owners of the economies who owns the means of production. If we do not own the means of production, we can talk about economy just, you know, by words, but action-wise, we literally can't do anything. But of course, we are not an island on our own. We coexist in a country where the reality is such that we don't have land at our disposal. But in this context, in the Namibian context, as things stand now, the only way we can maybe think of, you know, talk of the economy is then say that we look at the economy from two perspectives. One is the capacity, two, the capital perspective.
Okay. Let me stop you there. I think you are getting too excited. I'm also getting too excited. You mentioned that we can't talk about economic emancipation without talking about land. Very, very serious and very strong point there. And you mentioned that as long as we are not emancipated, we're still slavery. Let me hold you there because we're going to come back to that very, very important point. Let me move on to you. Tell us, from where you're sitting, from your perspective, what is the significance of this word? How do you take this word, economic emancipation for the youth?
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm representing Startup Namibia, and maybe just a quick background. Sorry, Mally.
Yes.
If I can digress a bit. But Startup Namibia is basically, I like to call it a baby that was born from the cooperation between the Namibian government and the German government. So what we did was we saw a need for an institution that would allow young people and people with just ideas that want to start a business to be able to come to this institution and be supported with the right skills. And I'm talking about non-financial support. So not necessarily giving financial support, but really allowing you to learn how to start a business, how to grow your business, and how to hopefully be at a point where you can, I guess, emancipate your peers or the people that would need employment, considering the high employment rate that we have at the moment among the youth. So I think emancipation from where I stand and the significance of it really starts from changing our mindset. So I am a product of a military family, so both my parents served in the military, and I grew up with the mindset that, well, the government needs to give me a job. So imagine now my shock when I left university and the government didn't give me a job. So I felt like the government failed me, basically. So I think that is sort of the mindset that we should be changing right now, that we've been saying government do something, but as young people, what have we been trying to do to show the government that we do have the right skills and we have started something, and therefore whatever policies that they are implementing or whatever new changes that they are making to our current sectors would be most beneficial to us because we've been sort of plowing and changing or disrupting those specific sectors. So I think for me it's definitely starting from a point of saying my future is definitely in my hands, but I'm also taking advantage of the resources that I have access to, and that might not even be money, but really my education, right? I've studied. I studied economics, but I work as the head of programs now, and what we do now is sort of create programs that will support people who say, I studied psychology, but I don't know how to run a business. So how do you bring that business element to whatever it is that you are skilled in? And so for me, that's sort of the starting point of emancipation.
Right. So, Loise, you are making very, very good points, very strong points there. So if I hear you correctly, you are saying that talking about youth emancipation, one also needs to ask questions like the one that I think it's Roosevelt who said, ask not what government can do for you, but what you can do for government. So there is a role to play by the young people also at this point in time to help with the process of emancipating themselves.
Yes.
We'll get deeper into that. I like that angle as well. Now let me also give Zodidi an opportunity to also share with us her perspective in terms of what economic youth emancipation really means, and also talk to us about African naturals and how the whole nexus, African natural yourself emancipation plays out.
Hi, everyone. So for me personally, it's very important to take ownership of your life. And when you take ownership of your life, you are able to tackle a few things like economic emancipation. And what I mean by that is you make the decisions, right? As much as there are structures and systems in place, you are able to influence those systems and structures because you're taking ownership of your life. And not only ownership of your life, but ownership of your finances. You can do that through education, through networking, through mingling with other entrepreneurs as well, and seeing what you can do for your community and not just for yourself. And for instance, for African Naturals, the reason I named it African Naturals, it is a company that manufactures products for hair and skin, especially ethnic hair and skin. And the reason that idea came about was because I realized back then, I mean now the market is a bit more saturated, but I realized back then there wasn't actually products for people like me. And when you take ownership, right, you're also able to influence the youth. So for instance, my children work for me, right? So that we can build a legacy. And from there, that is how you actually start influencing the future generation and take ownership of your finances.
So I can hear you being a role model to your family as well, which is very, very good. And I think one of the fastest way to emancipate a young person is to have that young person looking at somebody that have seen it all, that is doing it all, to get inspiration and learning and mentorship. And I think there's a whole big topic about mentorship. I think next week there's a seminar in Walvis Bay about youth mentorship. But we'll get to that later. Let me come back to you, sir. You mentioned that you cannot talk about emancipation without talking about land. Let me add to say that in economics, we have an economist here. In economics, there are 4 factors of production. Land is one of them. Capital is one of them. Labor is one of them. The other one I forgot. Who remembers it? Entrepreneurs. Yes. Now, all of these are critical. Why do you think it is important for a young person to have ownership of some sort of these factors of production to realize emancipation, like land, like these things, ownership? Why is it important? Yes, you are on.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Yes, you need to look at it from this context. Ne? A lady that probably do hair from Havana, renting a chair, you call it renting chairs, ne?
Yes.
in town. That lady would be paying taxi money to go to town to do her job. She would be paying rent. So from whatever she's going to be making, she would be taking a portion to go as expenses just because these are enablers. Without them, she's not able to do anything. But if this person had her own land, for sure all these profits all this money was going to be part of her profit. It was not going to go anywhere else. That's why I'm saying, of course, with labor, it's yourself, for instance, most of the time. We're talking about independence. When you talk about independent, we mean you do not depend on anyone. You do not depend, of course, you are not an island on your own, but we're saying at least 70, 80% you are dependent on yourself. If you have land, of course, in terms of labor, which is capacity and all these things, in the era where things are made easy for you, you can literally go to YouTube. You are able to capacitate yourself. Those are things that you are able to do yourself. But with land, it's a systematic challenge that you yourself as an individual cannot do. Hence, you need to break that one for everyone, and then the rest will just fall in place.
Okay, so if I hear what you're saying is, amongst these 4 factors of production, for you, having land is crucial. The others can follow. The youth, maybe they also agree with you, but we'll come to you guys to also air your view and also come into the discussion. But I just want to highlight the point to say that land is crucial. As much as the other factors of production are also important, but land. And it seems as if that the journey to total emancipation will begin when land question is addressed, especially for the youth. Let me come to you, Loise. Startup. What are the major challenges that you think youth are facing in terms of really getting started as connected to the youth emancipation? Do you foresee or have you come across some of these challenges? Because you are dealing with the youth that come to you for questions, for meetings and stuff like that. What are some of the common challenges that youth are facing when they want to start up something?
Wow, I have a long list,
Okay.
but let me see if I can try to narrow it down a little bit.
Yes, please.
So when you think about starting a business, the first thing that you're thinking about is the money. Where am I going to get the money to start the business? But I would like to play the devil's advocate and say that is not your biggest problem. Money is far from being the biggest problem when you want to start out. When you want to start out, the biggest problem is the skills. Nobody is willing to give you the money unless they are sure that you have the right skill set to actually grow this business. So the one thing that we constantly have, or the questions that we receive is, I don't even know how to start. I don't know how to create a business plan. I don't know what kind of resources are available for me to be able to prototype the product or the service that I want to create. I don't know who my customers are. And I think that's where we as Startup Namibia always want to peel back to say, before we even get to the financial restrictions that we have in terms of business finance, let's peel back and understand the very non-financial challenges that the youth are experiencing. A lot of the youth that come to us say, I have this great idea, but they have no idea what that market looks like. They don't know who their potential customers are. They don't know how to market. So you're essentially creating a product and assuming that now that I've created the business, I'm going to get customers. And this is where it's very important to really do your research when you want to start out. We're not discouraging people from accessing finance too early, absolutely not, we love that. But the struggles really start with when you've created something and you take it out there, it's not ready, you don't know who your customers are, nobody buys the product, and then it really does something to your self-esteem. You don't want to start ever again. It was such a horrible experience, you don't want to start again. And these are sort of the issues that we're constantly dealing with. So how we sort of contribute to improving this situation is that we take you through a journey of, I'm starting out from zero, and we teach you or we assist you how to get to a point where you are ready to get the financing that you need. There's a lot of players in the ecosystem where we operate that also have a specific mandate. So we don't give financial support, but we do give support services. But there are other institutions that are ready to give financial support. However, because your product is not ready, it becomes very, very difficult for you to access this financial support. So I think that's where sort of it becomes sort of a fun thing and not like business is such a scary thing. I'm very embarrassed if I fail. Nobody is expecting you to grow a business in a year and just flourish. We actually celebrate failures at Startup Namibia. We tell you, okay, if it doesn't work, try again. And that is the process that we try to assist you, but making sure that it doesn't cost you a lot. That way you recover fast, and you also have sort of a different idea that comes up in this process as well. So we are constantly inviting innovative ideas to come through. It might not even be solid. You might not even have it on paper. And this is really where we want to start out. And that's the biggest challenge, I think, that we as youth that want to start are struggling with.
Okay, Loise, that's quite important what you've mentioned there. When you say that, yes, money, capital is important for starting up, but it's not the ultimate. You can have capital, you can have money, but there are other business challenges that you still need to go through. And I'm so glad that we have Zodidi amongst us who have gone that route. And maybe I should bring her in now to say, okay, tell us, what did it take for you to be where you are right now? How did these challenges that Loise spoke about materialize with you? What is it how did it happen? So that young people can also learn to say, well, there are these challenges, but there are many ways to kill a cat. I'm not saying you must go and kill cats. Tell us.
Yes, constant challenges are a part of the journey. I've been in business for probably 7 years now, and I still have challenges.
7 years.
And yes, and like she said, finances are a part of it, but it's not the first thing. You can start a business off with $300, and I've done that. So you can have $300 and start a business. What I would say is a lot of young people tend to see what's happening on the internet and want to try things. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But if you have a passion for something, that's the thing that's going to keep you awake to go through the next day. So find what is your passion. Because at 2 a.m. in the morning, when a customer will text you and say, oh, I need this by tomorrow, are you able to help me? The passion is the thing that's going to wake you up, right? And also, very importantly, stay authentic to who you are and look at solutions in your community so that you can change your community. That's how you start getting innovative. That's how you start not just starting a business for the sake of starting a business, but looking at how do I combine the land issue, for instance, with an issue that I have in my community? Who can I talk to make that happen? And if you guys could see my packaging, it's so embarrassing. It looks absolutely horrible. The first packaging I had, I'm still so embarrassed about it, but it's in my manufacturing studio.
Oh,
I
yeah?
put it up to remind myself where I came from.
Yes, yes,
And
yes, yes.
how I failed, but failed fast. Because the faster you fail, the faster you learn, and the faster you can move on to the next thing.
So it's a process.
It really is.
It
And
is a
there's going to be
process.
challenges throughout,
Yeah.
but you have to be flexible to the challenges
Oh, yeah.
as well.
Oh, yeah.
And not just work in a cocoon, but like she said, there are actual institutes and different types of organizations that can assist you. So you guys have internet now,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and YouTube and all of these platforms that you can access to make things happen.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, so you've heard now from the panelists their perspectives, their initial perspective on the concept of economic emancipation for the youth. Let me throw the dial to you guys. Maybe one or two would also like to share their initial perspective on this subject, because we're here to learn together and create a bigger picture out of which we can use to our advantage. So,
Good afternoon. My name is Enos. I think I just wanted to contribute to the panel, to the panelists. I think also what can contribute to economic emancipation is also just easing doing business in Namibia. I think as youth, it's very frustrating that you have a very good startup idea, but the regulations, there's so much red tape, there's so much bureaucracy. You go to BIPA, they're already sending you all over. So I think also just making sure that there isn't that much red tape. And this is now where we are looking forward to the Startup Act, and also just where the investment board can also just make, just to smoothen and just make the whole doing business in Namibia very seamless for the youth and also just for the entire Namibian population. Yeah, that's my contribution to the discussion.
yeah, so while you're still having the mic, just want to get clarity. So these conditions that are there, obviously the idea is to have a fair playing field for everyone. Would you say that to some extent they are not fair on the youth? And I'm saying this because, for example, if you go to DBN or some of these organizations, they would ask for a youth to have collateral of $1.5 million. These kind of things, do you think they are disproportional to the youth? Is that what I'm hearing you saying? And the same as these conditions, are they not fair to the youth? Because obviously maybe the bigger people, the not youth, would find it easy to navigate. I mean, they've got connections, they've got here, there. But how is it for the youth? Are you saying it's not fair for the youth?
Yes, you're totally right. I think, in my opinion, it's not fair to the youth. Looking at the fact that we don't have capital, we also don't have the connections, we also don't have inside people to facilitate all this for us. So just to level the playing field and also just relax the regulations.
Yes,
That's now, I think even the whole entire business community is complaining about the whole red tape and bureaucracy in Namibia. And I think for us, the youth, we are worse off, in my opinion. Yes.
Point well taken. I think relax the conditions. That's a key word. Relax the regulation.
Thank you very much. My name is Loise Katanga. Just to contribute to the engagement of the topic in terms of economic emancipation, I think from my perspective, the first and most important thing that we need to do is to have competent, capacitated youth when it comes to us understanding about the economy. That will be a big pillar. And secondly is to address the devil's problem. Why do I say this? Because in order for us to give birth to other ideas or businesses, we need to address the main problem that affects each and every one of us. And maybe to intertwine some of the sort of things that we point out is issues such as land. What can we do by land? Things such as agriculture. Agriculture then can open other networks, and also how do we then give birth to things that can equipped and increase the number of population of youth, from my perspective.
Yeah. While you're still holding the mic, I like your point, although it's a very difficult word, competent, capacitated youth. It's a dictionary word. Can you expand a little bit? Are you hinting on the education system, on the training? What do you mean by capacitated? Is it capacitated in terms of giving them money, resources? Can you just elaborate a little bit? I'll come to you.
Thank you very much. When we speak about competent, capacitated youth, from my perspective, I would then say that equipping young people with the right necessary skills that can help them address the problem in their society or community.
Yes, fantastic. Let me get one intervention, then I'm going to go back to my panel. So are you saying that the youth that are all here, only the male youth? Are the female youth okay with the situation? You are still coming? Great. Okay, yes, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rivaldo Kavanga, and just my contribution also on a comment on the panel discussion. We're addressing a vital issue here when we say that we need to have land for young people to become economic emancipated. However, we do know that, of course, through colonialism and everything, the land that white people still own right now is still in their hands. And it's protected by, of course, our constitution. It is just facts. And when will we solve that problem, actually? Will we solve it in the next 5 years? We don't know. So what I would say is that also as young people, we need to become more innovative in how we conduct business. There are so many businesses that you see that thrive without people having land. There is not necessarily a means to say that, no, you need land in order for your business to thrive. It is not, in essence, factual. I would make examples of obvious things. We talk about the fourth industrial revolution and how we want Namibia to contribute through that. What are our IT students doing? Are they coming up with apps, or do they also need land to come up with apps again? We know we don't need that.
Good question.
So really, we need to honestly become more innovative. And the second point is we need to tap into markets that will propel our business. We know Namibia's population is made about of 2.6 million people. How many people will subscribe to your business once you start it? I've visited South Africa, I've spoken to the youth that side, and they have a large market. So speaking to them, I asked them, okay, how do you guys do it? And they told me, no, we're not focusing on the South African market only. We're focusing on the Nigerian market. And look at that distance. Really, it's I don't know how many kilometers, I'd say 1,000 kilometers, but it's quite a great distance. So let's also think ahead of ourselves. Let's be creative, innovative, and let's not just focus on land, because that issue might take 20 years to solve from now.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. I want to take it from here. Hands, please. That was a very good contribution. Julius, he mentioned one point here at the beginning. Is the land issue, do we have a constitutional dilemma with regards to resolving the land issue in as far as emancipation is concerned? He mentioned that the land is still, the unfair distribution of land is still being protected by the constitution. What's your take on his comment?
Yeah, thank you. As the AR movement, what we've done is that we've submitted a land bill to Parliament. It's under review at the moment because we see how important that aspect is. But one mistake that we should not do as young people is to give into these fights. It was never gonna be easy. It's never easy, and it will never be easy. So if we are to have a sustainable, structural, or systematic platform where everyone has access to it, we have to go through these challenges. We have to fight all these monsters and whatnot. But if we are to go and take the small battles and whatnot, one black person will succeed today, tomorrow the money is depleted, and then the next generation has nothing again. That's why, again, I've said that when you look at the white people, for instance, how the things are structured, there is what is called those legacy businesses. The next generation will continue on top of the other one, and then that. When you look at our empowerment policies like BEE, for instance, one tenderpreneur get a tender today without capacity, like he said, for instance, handpicked, and then he got a tender today, he acquired millions of dollars. Tomorrow the money is squandered, there's nothing again. It's a problem because we are targeting into individual businesses, but rather instead of leveling the field for everyone and making the system easier for everyone to be standing on their own feet and
Like the
and
point you
continue.
made.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's quite important. Luis, now looking at the issue of emancipation is quite a challenge. If this issue is not resolved, by this I mean if the youth are not empowered to take control of their destiny, if youth are not given opportunities, if youth are not invited to the big table, to the high table, what do you think will happen? What are the dangers of the situation continuing? Because we know already it's a situation, we all agree. Now, if this situation is not changed, if the bill that has been submitted is not yielding any result, what do you think will happen?
All right. So I don't think the repercussions are, or let me rather say, it's not a thing of our future generation is going to, suffer the same challenges as we're suffering right now. I think it's really beyond that. A lot of the discussions are now surrounding, yes, we need to create a sustainable future for the future generation and the generation after that. But what does that even look like? It's beyond just creating an environment where your younger sister or younger brother can thrive in this country. It's our country in itself. It's our economy in itself. And if I can just sort of bring it back, I think somebody mentioned the Namibia NIPDB. I can't even say that.
Investment board.
Yes, the investment board. And this is something that just came up, 2 years ago? And then they saw the need that we need to attract foreign investment, or we need to really make Namibia an investment destination. Why is this? It's because we've seen how the government has used their funds. Not all bad. Yes, we have pretty good public expenditure happening in the right areas. So we have really good infrastructure, we have good roads. I think Namibia is one of the countries that have really relatively good roads in Southern Africa. But our government has also been increasing their debt levels. There's a lot of borrowing that has been happening from the world, right? So the repercussions, or what we're actually putting at risk, is our entire stability of our economy. If we cannot take the initiative, if we cannot disrupt the way things are going right now, we would be sort of another country, that has a very unstable economy, if not sort of a drowning economy. And then what will happen? Everybody gets angry. And we all know, we've heard of the wars that are happening in Asia, right? And these things don't just come from power struggles. It's not just a political thing, it's an economic thing. If people get angry, you see a lot of people, a lot of uprisings happening, a lot of fighting happening, so it's really trying to protect our country. I've studied in India, and I can tell you, when I came back home, that was the happiest day of my life, because you start to realize that living in Namibia, being a Namibian child, it's such an amazing thing. It's more than just, I am born in Namibia, I work in Namibia, I studied abroad. It's really seeing what is happening out there, right? The resources that we have here. It's almost putting us at a point of being privileged, to be honest. Nobody talks about how we as a citizen, like what we as a nation, come together and support each other in the most calm and neutral way ever. In other countries, people don't want to go back home because it's not a place that you want to live. Yeah. So this emancipation, economic emancipation, is really beyond just preserving, the future generations' sort of economic status. It's really us preserving our country. And as far as I know, the young people in Namibia have so much potential. And it's really, I will take it back again if I can, to the way that we're raised. We're raised to always benefit from government interventions. And I can promise you, when I started working, I did a lot of contracts. I did a lot of contracts in different private companies. And that to me was very strange. But why is it? Because in our minds, we are conditioned to think that we need to get, a permanent job, and be stable. But I'm sorry to say this out loud, but how many public servants are very happy people? So maybe that's not what we want. Maybe, the future that we're trying to create is you know, saying, I don't mind if I don't have a permanent job. That's not what I'm fighting for. I'm really trying to see the most impact I can make for my country, for the next person. I'm really trying to build myself to a level where I can also inspire others, you know. And through this entire cycle, we're creating permanency. How many of us are willing to work for a startup company?
Yes, Loise.
Everybody is trying to, you know, apply to the government or a big private corporation.
Yeah.
But we have so many companies, you know, I don't know if you guys heard of Jabu, you know, they are doing logistics, you know. There's Lefa, you know, with the driving, or basically the Namibian Uber. There's e-bikes for Africa, which is basically using renewable energy or using solar to power these bikes, you know, for deliveries and so forth. But how many of us are actually willing to work there? You are an accountant and you'll still say to yourself, well, they can't afford me. But why is that? Why can't we give each other the opportunities and really grow our country together beyond sort of...
Okay. So, Loise, I think you've made a very good point, and I like the point of civil servant. I mean, 7 years of no salary increase, I won't be happy myself. But I know that's not what you meant, but yeah. Zodi, as we conclude,
Yes.
suppose the young people have got the passion that you mentioned, the zeal, the authenticity. Suppose they have all of this,
Yes.
and the situation doesn't seem to change. And I'm saying this because I know that many of them, they have the passion, they have the authenticity, they have the ideas. Who should come to their rescue?
Before I answer that,
Yes.
the gentleman, they had mentioned how the, you know, entrepreneurship, you know, system
Yeah.
is kind of not built for us. But I used to think like that. And I realized that there's a bigger picture, right? As much as there's certain things that are a bit challenging and so forth, and trust me, I know those challenges. If you're thinking only of the Namibian landscape, then you are doing a disservice to yourself. The reason why certain systems are in place is so you can export to other countries. So you can, like this gentleman had also spoken, we have a tendency to, I want to start a business for Namibia, for Namibians, right? How many of us, how many are we in Namibia?
2.5.
Probably 3 million, right? And the market is not, like, imagine all of us are entrepreneurs. Who's going to go into government to change the policy? We need younger people to be policy changers. We need people who will become investors. We need people who are going to fight for land and other aspects. So we can't all be entrepreneurs. But those who choose to be entrepreneurs must know that you can't just, you know, focus on Namibia alone, but think of how do I actually create a product or service that speaks to the challenges of today. COVID was, I mean, we're still in COVID, but the lockdown was a perfect example of how to start thinking of logistics, how to start thinking of how do I get my product to South Africa because the borders are a bit challenging and things like that. How do I get into e-commerce? There's so many other things that we have to start challenging ourselves. And as much as we can think of, okay, I'm passionate, you know, those are really great grounding points to start from. But the networking, we tend to think of, you know, the older people are there, they have the means, they know the people and so forth. But at the end of the day, how many youth are there? This is the network. And we have to also tap into our immediate circle. As an example, my friends and family, what we've done is, so the services that I need for my business, right? I look at my sister who's a lawyer. I say, okay, so I might not be able to pay you, you know, the amount or whatever. But in your part-time, can you help me to look through contracts and so forth?
Yes.
And then I look at my daughter, right, who's my production assistant. I say, oh, you're really great at looking at details and so forth. How can I bring you into my network to create a bigger network that can finally get into various other networks and then start building a country from the ground up?
That's right, that's
Yeah.
right. I mean, you're making a very good point on network.
Yes.
Guys, if I just take this front row, hello, the front row that's on the cell phone. Do you know what business she's into? This one? No? Okay. If I take your phone is full of numbers, like 700. Do you know how many business people are in your phone that you do business with? You can start with your close circle, that's what she's saying. So we have so many opportunities to get into this one way or the other, but she's an expert. She's the one who said it. Now, Julius, as we wrap up, the issue is is on our doorsteps. We are with this issue. What is the way forward?
As young people, we need to understand, like she said, that not everyone is going to be a business person. Not everyone is born to be a business person. Not everyone is going to be a lawyer. So there should be policy makers. But also those policy makers, they should be guided by a generation that is working, not some sleeping young people. Because it's like you driving from here to the north and if the driver is sleeping, passengers are also sleeping, you are bound to just fall all of you and die in a car accident. So if the policymakers are not coming up with policies that are beneficiary to the citizens of the country, it's up to the citizens, especially the young people, that no, this is not what we want. It's high time that as young people we begin to think outside the box. It's high time that we begin to think like God for all of us, man on his own. It won't work. We need to understand that there need to be systems in place that are conducive for everyone on the ground. And then when those are conducive, those systems those people are comfortable, they are able to measure in whatever they are going to measure in. So we must never give up. And I don't know how many of you here, I was in the other lecture room, I don't know how many of young people here have even a voter's card. That's where the whole problem begins, that you have a policy maker that is voted, say for instance, by less than 400,000 people in the country where there is about 2.5 million people. So if we as young people don't even want to sacrifice to go and stand in the queue to vote for the right person that you should, not based on the face, not based on the race, not based on the color, based on what they are saying they are going to do for you. Sometimes you must just think for yourself, what do I want in the next 4 years or 5 years? What has happened in the past 5 years? What should be done? What do I want? What do I want my society to look like in the next whatever? So that's all that needs to be done going forward. It's the only way. They say your vote counts and all that. So I'm not here to politicize anyone, but I'm just saying these are just logical things that need to be done in countries that are stable like the US. People know. We saw what happened in UK now. Where even the closest ally to the prime minister just resigned that this what we are doing is nonsense. This is not what I want my country to look like. So it's those small things that we need to do as young people.
So for me, really, you've hit these English words are a problem. Is it the nail on the head or the head on the nail?
The nail on the head.
You hit the tail. Let's just say hit the tail. So for me, really, youth involvement and participation is key. Guys, let's be involved, right? Let's be engaged. Civil participation. It's not for the old, not for the elders. We are also having a stake to play. Loise, what's the way forward as we conclude?
I think I would say go out, look at your surrounding, look at the resources that are available to you, look at your own capacity, what you can actually do. And if you find a really amazing idea that you want to implement, come and see me. Let's work on it. It might not work out, which is completely fine, but at least we've started something, right? So it's definitely worth the try. So don't shy away from, but it's too little, it's too funny. We'll figure it out at the end, but think of something amazing that you really want to do in your community, or to improve the way of life of anybody or any industry, in fact. Secondly, support, people that are actually trying, guys. Let's not go out on social media and say, this should have been like this, that should have been like that. The guys that are out there that are trying, be a customer. Yes, the products are relatively more expensive than what you would find in the shop, but until when, like he said, in 5 years, what's going to happen? So when you can, support, post about it. I mean, we all have social media. Post about it, tag them, and really create that awareness. And then lastly, collaborate. So, like she said, whatever skill that you could be able to bring to your cousin's business, you know, they might not be able to pay you at that point in time, but really be willing to support it. In fact, be willing to work 1 hour in their company or in their startup for free. You know, don't say you can't afford me. Really give what you can while you can.
That's right,
I
that's
think
right.
that would really create, and it would actually strengthen somebody else's business, but it would also strengthen our overall production, which also strengthens our economy at large. So the little things, I think, really go a long way. If you are like me, who's a certified customer, because I'm not a business owner, be good at it. Be really, really good at it. I think that's what I would,
That's right.
I would
That's
say.
right. That's right. Zodidi?
What I would like to say is also just the participation in all aspects. You know, if you see something, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's in a business, whether it's in government, and it just doesn't sit right with you, please speak up. Things might not change immediately, but in the next generation, I'm so excited to see that people are participating. And I would really like to see more youth participating in the big conversations. So insert yourself. You know, they might turn you away, but you guys have social media as well, and so many other platforms that I didn't have when I was much younger. So please participate, challenge yourself. I know sometimes it can be challenging out here, but yeah, I'm happy for the future. I think it's quite bright.
That's right. That's right. I mean,
Yeah.
you see, guys, we've just scratched the surface of this subject, right? Do you agree? There is more to this subject. We need to immerse ourselves in these conversations, in these discussions, so that we get to the bottom of some of these things, because there lies the key to our emancipation. So let me thank the colleagues here for really sharing their perspective on this subject, and also you guys for the audience, and also for the comments. The debate still continue. We should not stop here because of the procedure of the program. We're going to have to take a break here. I know that there's some more comments that were supposed to come, but again, we're still together. We know each other. Let's continue talking, because you never know. You might pick 1 or 2 ideas that will change your life for the good. So let me thank the participants, Julius, Loise, Zodidi, and of course myself.
Thank you, Mally.